A readathon. You might have come across the term while browsing YouTube and have no idea what it is. Or you've never heard of it and you're just curious about the title of this video. Either way, I'm going to unlock the jargon. I'm going to talk about what a readathon is, how to do one, and why you should bother doing one in the first place, because this technique has some serious benefits. So what is a readathon? A readathon first ushered its way into our bookish language as a way for usually schools to raise money for a cause by collecting donations based on the amount of reading students do in a set period of time. Since then, the term readathon has come to mean some kind of reading challenge, usually reading a set amount of books in a set period of time. This could be anything from all the books that an author has written, or all the books in an entire series, or just getting through some of your to-be-read books in your list. Essentially, a readathon is a pre-planned set period of time in which reading is your priority. This likely means you'll do very little other than reading. Usually a readathon is long, anywhere from 6 to 48 hours, but sometimes it's even more than that. Some even use the term readathon to encompass weeks or months, depending on the challenge they set for themselves. So now we know what the term readathon is, let's go into the details of how to do one. So how do you do a readathon? A readathon may be daunting at first because it requires a little bit of pre-planning, but the more you do readathons, the better you'll get at the pre-planning and the less time it will take. So the first thing you need to do is work out how many books you can read in your set period of time. And we'll do that by first working out how many hours you have to read. So let's say you want to do a readathon over a weekend, which means you'll have 48 hours in which to read. But actually you'll have around 26 hours if you take away your sleep. Then we need to take away a few more hours for eating, doing some prep work, just general life stuff. Let's say you have 20 hours in which to read your books. If you can on average read 3,000 words every 10 minutes, then in 20 hours you'll be able to read around 360,000 words. To make this way easier, let's convert that to pages. To make this even easier for you, I've created a readathon calculator. You can find that on my website. A link to it is in the description below. Okay, so we have 720 pages to read. Now let's work out what books we're going to read. This part is pretty simple. Look up the books that you want to read. It could be the same books in a series, it could be a few books from one author, or just a few books that you would like to get through in your to-be-read list. Do a search on a site like the Storygraph or Goodreads, and there you'll be able to do a quick calculation as to how many of the books you'd like to read you can actually read. In this case, I can read the first 2 books of the Witcher series with a few pages to spare. For you, it could be 3 small books, 1 big book, and 1 small book, or 1 huge book, depending on how much time you have in which to read. Okay, so now we've looked at the how, let's look at the benefits of doing something like a readathon. Okay, so what are the benefits of a readathon and who exactly is it for? A readathon first came about as a way for students to raise money for a cause, but it also worked really well to get students motivated to read again. It could work exactly the same for you. If you've been struggling to find the motivation to read, then planning a readathon may light your reading spark again. If you wanted to make it even more of a personal event, you could pre-plan what you're going to eat, buy snacks, drink, get a candle or 2, and really go all in. In essence, this readathon is for you, so make the most of it and have fun. Readathons also work really well for those of us who struggle to get into the story of a book if you can only read a few pages at a time. If you find greater joy in binge reading or getting sucked in, then a readathon would likely suit you more than, say, a reading sprint would. Readathons also work extremely well for those of us who have a to-be-read list that's way too long. If you're anything like me, then you want to get through it. You want to read. So by setting out sacred time to read, you're giving yourself the time you really crave to read and nothing else. Of course, readathons don't always work so well for people who don't have a lot of time to give, but if you know that you prefer to read in longer stints of time, then you could use a readathon to your advantage. For example, if your kids are at school for a day, you could take the day off and hop between coffee shops reading in stints that are longer throughout the entire day until you need to pick them up. Or you could use a readathon to encompass simply the short amount of time that you have to do your morning commute. The readathon could last months, but using that specific period of time. Readathons are all about creativity, so the possibilities are endless. But I want to know from you, With all this information in mind, will you be giving a readathon a go, or have you already done one already? I would love to know, so leave me a comment. And I'll see you next Thursday for another video.